not having any memory of the accident makes the mental side of it way, way easier. And coming here, I had no hesitation, no trepidation. It was, I think driving in this morning, you're probably thinking about it more than ever. And then as soon as you're dressed and as soon as you're in the car and the engine fires up, you're thinking about one thing, man, and that's just getting around Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Did you give the wall the finger on your first installation lap?
No, it wasn't the wall's fault.
Okay.
Got nothing against the wall.
And the wall actually probably.
I was gonna say if it was a safer wall, so that probably helped a lot.
Yeah. Is the thing with the dome skid, I was just talking to Marco, and he's livid. He said the car's up in the air, and Ryan said, you're going to have to wear, if we don't get to run strakes, we don't have a chance. Is it that definitive already? Can you tell hints that it's going to be, first of all, is it that big a disadvantage for a Honda compared to a Chevy?
I think the bigger issue is the quality of the racing. I think if you run without strakes, you're taking so much downforce away from both cars that you really run the risk of not being able to race each other. We've seen such good racing with this car since it came out in 2012, and we don't want to mess with that formula. It's not about equivalency. It's not about what's fair for one manufacturer or another. It's about putting on a good show at the 100th running of the Indianapolis 500, and I think that's what most of the guys are worried about.
Can we break it down to explain to people watching this what the dome skid raises the car up, ride height. So when the thing's up in the air, it's harder to drive because.
So here's kind of the Coles Notes version of how this works. An Indy car generates downforce in two different ways: from the wings on the top of the car and from the floor at the bottom. For the floor to generate grip, it needs to be close to the ground. That's just how physics works. As you raise the car up, you lose that downforce from the bottom of the car, and you're relying more on the downforce on the top of the car. Now, when you're driving around by yourself, it doesn't make a huge difference. You can make the numbers match. Where you run into problems is running in dirty air. Running in dirty air, the top of the car is much more affected, right? Because the air is flowing over the wings, and if that air is turbulent, you're going to have more of a loss. The air underneath the car is much less affected by dirty air. So what we're doing by raising the car up is you're taking away the downforce that helps hold the car down in dirty air, putting it on the top where it's much more affected in dirty air. Thus, when you're running behind a guy, net downforce is going to be down. And running with downforce in a corner behind a guy, that's how you set up passes. That's how you make good racing.
Tell the people, Hinch, what's a strake and what will it do?
The strake is a piece that bolts into the diffuser on the bottom of the car that helps speed up airflow, which helps generate downforce. It's a part that you get a lot of downforce for very little drag. It's probably the most efficient way of adding downforce to this car. And without it, like I said, regardless of manufacturer, you're taking a lot of downforce off the floor, making the car rely on the top of the car, and that's just not what you want when you're talking about racing at these speeds.
Would the Honda and the Chevy drivers lobby to have strakes in for the Indy 500? Would that be the wise thing?
It depends if you're asking them on the record or off the record.
So Chevrolet might have an advantage without a strake?
Obviously, I don't know the details of the other manufacturer's kit. I don't know how it works best, but from all the guys that I've spoken to, we're all sharing the same concern, regardless of what badge is on their arm. And so, like I said, we're all worried about one thing, and that's putting on a great race at the Indy 500. And I think if it was up to the drivers, yeah, you'd be running strakes, no doubt.